Today's synth exploration is made possible thanks to the sponsorship from DistroKid. So if you're looking to upload your music to Spotify, iTunes and other stores, check my link in the description for a discount and you also support the channel.
Today is an exciting day because Cre8audio sent some stuff over. It's some really exciting Eurorack stuff and I'm quite excited about it. So it's going to be interesting to see if it holds up to my expectations because I have pretty high expectations for what's in this box. It is this new case, the NiftyKEYZ. It's a keyboard and Eurorack case wrapped into one. There have of course been other keyboard and Eurorack case combinations before, but this one has a lot of interesting functions. For example, arpeggiator, you can do splits, you can do polyphonic voices on it. It has built-in multipliers, so there's a lot of interesting stuff here with this keyboard. Just holding it like this inspires confidence because it's actually quite heavy. Yeah, it feels well built. And something that I'm excited to see is that we now have attenuators here for the mains output and the headphones volume. This was something that I critiqued the original NiftyKEYZ for, because the original NiftyKEYZ had this problem because you couldn't attenuate the signal using the outputs, so it could distort. Seems like they've solved it. Well, I'll test that, of course. So first, physical impressions. Nice resistance to the knobs. The keys are all right. They're nothing spectacular. It's not like a Fatar keybed or anything, but it feels okay.
And the total space for Eurorack modules is 112 HP, which is larger than the original NiftyKEYZ at 84 HP.
The pitch and mod wheel feels good. In terms of I/O, we have two outputs, a headphones output. We also have access to them here. So we have output 1 and output 2. We have MIDI in and out. We have sustain and expression pedal inputs. And of course, the power.
The NiftyKEYZ also has a little mixer here, and let me explain how it works. So we have two outputs here on the back with a main level control, as well as a dedicated headphones output with an attenuator here. And as far as I can tell, doesn't distort, works really well. And we have two inputs here and two inputs here. So we can plug something in, say an oscillator, and that signal will go to out 1. And if we plug it in here or here, it goes out 2. You could also take a signal in here and then take it out here into something else and then back into here, for example. So it's 4 inputs and 2 main line outputs here on the back for recording your Eurorack. My first idea for testing the NiftyKEYZ was putting together a polyphonic Eurorack build.
I have basically a 4-voice synthesizer here using the 2 Castor and Pollux modules. They are controlled with the VCA from Befaco. And don't judge me too harshly on the cable management and the mess here. We can do better. Then we have the super impressive envelope generator from Velectronic. Then there's this very simple stereo mixer. I like that because it gives you the ability to pan the voices a bit. Then we have a stereo filter. So it's not a true polyphonic synthesizer. You could definitely build a true polyphonic synthesizer with an additional, say, 4 envelope generators and 4 individual filters, but I don't have modules that would fit. So what I did was putting 1 stereo filter here at the end. This is the one from Bastel. It's a really nice filter. I like it a lot. And then we put the Hector. This is like an effects, a modular environment in modular. We can turn on the arpeggiator, latch it, changing the speed, as well as the range. We also have different arpeggiator modes, so we can change between them. up, down to random, for example. What's also quite cool is that if we turn on the arpeggiator and we hit function, we hit sequencer, now it's lit, and now we can program something. We also have an octave switch. And not to forget, we also have some connections up here, for example, multipliers. So I'm taking the LFO or mod wheel signal here and multiplying it and using it to control the oscillators. Another really useful thing is that you have different voice modes as well as the ability to split the keyboard. And you can also have the arpeggiator playing on a different zone. So if you are in the 3 voice mode and split is turned on, and I've set my zone here, you can set different zones depending on where you want the keyboard to split. We can have an ARP playing together with a chord. So this particular split mode is meant for having chords on the lower octaves and maybe a lead, so we can turn off, for example, the ARP. Now by hitting function, and I should know that I've been holding it down a little bit in this video, but you don't actually hold it down, you just press function to enable that edit mode where you can change the settings, press it again to go out of it. So you just press it, press voice mode again, voice mode number 3 again. Now we've switched it around so we can play chords up here and a single note. Let's use aftertouch to control the filter. So now we of course want an ARP. So we can do something like this. So far, it's been a really good experience. This is my first day with it. I just basically spent the entire day just diving into it. One thing that is a little bit tricky is like keeping track of what's turned on and off. You have to check the little function button here. So if I turn split on or off here, it blinks. So 1 time for on, 2 times for off, for example. So that's something that you have to keep track of. But other than that, it's been pretty smooth so far for being just the first couple of hours with it. We also have velocity CV, we have aftertouch, we have the mod or LFO, so we can set it to either using the mod here or set it to being an LFO. And then we use the wheel here to set the amplitude of the LFO, and we use the ARP rate here to set the speed, the rate of the LFO. You also get this handy sheet with a lot of cheats, so you can quickly see what everything does, because there's a lot of commands here, a lot of things you can configure. Since there's no menu, there's a lot of things hidden under the keyboard, basically. So here's the second build that I'm working on, and let me show you here. This is the clock output, and to set the rate, use the rate knob over here. I'm using it to clock this module, so if I turn it, you can see that the rate is being increased. And this here is a mono voice,
but it's doing a few interesting things. I'm taking all of these different waveforms out from the prime mover. This is a Swedish company called Noiselab. They sent over a few modules quite a while back, and I really liked them. So I'm taking the individual waveforms plus the sub, and I'm routing it through the forecaster, which basically, as you can see here, scans the signals. I'm using the DivKit LFO for this, and this gives me a really complex waveform. Super interesting stuff. In terms of depth, I haven't had any issues with any of the modules that I tried. The DivKit module is quite deep, and it could sometimes, when I used it on the NiftyKEYZ, it could sometimes hit the flying bus boards, the power sockets. So sometimes in certain places in the rack, I couldn't fit that module. But so far, this one is definitely deep enough for pretty much all my modules. I haven't found anyone that doesn't fit. I have also tested the MIDI to USB, which seems to be working as intended. And you can also use this as a MIDI controller for your soft synths, for example, because you can turn off local control, meaning that when you play the keys here, you won't trigger any sounds on the Eurorack itself. So now I'm triggering a soft synth inside of Cubase, and all of that while I'm controlling the Eurorack using Cubase. So the case, just like with the NiftyKEYZ, also works like a MIDI to CV and CV to MIDI interface, which is kind of nice. Now in the next part of this video, we're going to talk about some alternatives to this case, because you might have seen that there is a similar looking, but not similar in terms of functions, keyboard Eurorack case. And I have a special guest who will talk more about it after this short message from today's sponsor. Here's 5 reasons to try out DistroKid. Firstly, you sign up for about $20 a year and you can upload unlimited amounts of music. Secondly, it's really quick and easy to upload. Basically, anyone can do it without any prior knowledge. 3. There are different tiers of subscriptions, so if you want to release your music under, say, different artist names, or if you're starting a label, DistroKid has an option for you. 4. DistroKid lets you upload to relevant stores and streaming services, such as Spotify and iTunes, and it doesn't take long for the music to be available in the stores. 5. There's also the hyperfollow feature, which automatically creates a custom page where people can find out where to buy or listen to your music. And I personally really like this feature. So go and check out DistroKid using my link in the description. You get a little discount and you support the channel.
Hello, my name is Jorb. I love gear. Bo, I'm not sure exactly how you're going to move into this segment, so I hope that works. But you, the viewer, who I'm now talking to, I was talking to Bo about Eurorack pretty generally, and he mentioned he was working on a new video and wouldn't tell me exactly what the piece of gear was, but I think I have a pretty good idea now. He divulged a little bit, but a lot of what we were talking about was questions about my Waldorf KB37, an all-in-one keyboard case I like quite a lot, so much in fact it's really what my system is built around, and I highlight why it as a product fits my unique needs and helps me be creative in the way I want to be creative in a video called The Focused Approach to Eurorack Building a Better Mono. Bo, I hope you enjoy that plug. Anyway, he asked if I was willing to shoot a short clip detailing the features of the Waldorf KB37, and who am I to deny the thumbnail king? So, I don't know what Bo's talking to you about, but for now, you and I are going to talk about the KB37. I will make some changes to the patch as we go along, but for the most part, you're hearing the .VCO and Sea Devils filter from STG Sound Labs. There's really a feature set for it as a case and for it as a keyboard. But as a case, we have 107 HP of threaded rails. The total depth is a little bit shallow, something to be aware of. There are 14 power connectors distributed over 2 zones, 1.5 amps total. As far as I/O, we have 1/8-inch left and right jacks on top that feed to 1/4-inch jacks on the back at line level, along with a headphone out with its own volume. We have MIDI in, out, and through, along with MIDI over USB. There is a sensor input on the back, which can be used for an expression pedal, and that passes to a CV jack here on the front that's just labeled sensor. That takes us to our CV out panel over here on the left. We, of course, have gate and pitch. along with velocity, which I have going to the filter envelope amount, aftertouch, which I have going to a vibrato amount, separate outs for the pitch bend, which I don't have anything plugged in, but still affects the CV coming out of your pitch gate, and the wheel, which I'm using to bring in a second oscillator from the top half of the Buchla 258T. Then moving down our panel here, we have X, Y, and Z, which all convert MIDI-CC into control voltage, which is really handy, but our X output can also be used for a second pitch, and we can have two-note paraphonic playing kind of like the Odyssey. Which is pretty handy. Right above that is a clock output. That reset sends a reset signal whenever you get a MIDI transport stop command, but we can use that clock to set our arpeggiator speed. Which is pretty handy. And the arpeggiator, as you can tell, records velocity values along with everything else. We can speed it up. We have some modes for octaves, random, down, up and down, up. The order you play it in, which is all quite handy. But there you go. That is your lightning fast look at the KB37. One very important thing to remember, though, they are discontinued. So even if this seems like it's a perfect fit for you, there's no guarantee you'll be able to buy one. You only have to get lucky with one showing up used. So I don't know how often that will be, but I do know for sure, depending on whatever Bo's showing you today and how cool it is, mine might show up on Reverb in the next few months. So there you go. Cheers all. Back to your real host, Bo. Take it away.
So what have we learned from Jorb's presentation? Well, firstly, I think that the Waldorf has a better key bed. It's a Fatar key bed. Secondly, the NiftyKEYZ is not only not discontinued, it's also way more feature-packed. You can do mono as well as polyphonic patches, there's multipliers, there's a small mixer, and really importantly, you can split the keyboard and have the arpeggiator running for one voice and then do a chord like I've showed you. I also just learned that there's one big issue with the Waldorf, and that is that it can't do 5-volt power. It can't deliver 5-volt power to the modules, but this one can. This can do both 12 volts and 5 volts. So that's quite a big difference, and thank you to Gaz Williams who helped me out. He has one of those Waldorf KBs and seems to like it a lot. I think this would be right up his alley. So after testing the NiftyKEYZ for about a week, what do I think about it? Well, I think that it's really solid. It does make a lot of sense for the way that I use Eurorack, and I love that I can do polyphonic patches without any additional modules. Just put stuff in here. Sure, I mean, you can't make the biggest, craziest polyphonic patch because the space is limited. But then again, if you just put another rack behind it, you have a lot of space, you have an integrated MIDI keyboard, a nice midi-CV interface, a lot of functionality right here. So yeah, I like it. Is it for everyone? No, it's you know, Eurorack is whatever you want it to be. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself if this kind of functionality is something that you're looking for or not, because it might not be. I think that the video speaks for itself. This was fun for me to check out. This works for me. And if it works for you, let me know down in the comments. And as always, have a great day. Talk to you later.